Hello, everyone. Welcome to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. I am Cece Shatz, your host. I'm the Doyenne of relationship building. This is one of my favorite shows. It is the Author's Corner, Meet the Author. And man, we meet some really great authors. We just had the Business Showcase lunch hour. An awesome author on there. I just love to bring these great books to you because I feel like it's important that we read, right? It's important that we step out of our own world a little bit, read a little bit, keep our minds active. And so this is why we bring these awesome authors with to the showcase here for you. So I hope that you're enjoying it as much as all of us are. Let's do our homework before we start. Of course, you guys know that I'm the president of Going Solo Network. All of our information is right there on goingsolonetwork.com. This is our media right here, the goingsolomedia.com. You'll find all of our wonderful shows, hosts, and all that we do here on the Going Solo Network. If you want to email me, I love to get your emails. I want to thank those of you who are emailing me because I love to read them. And I read them personally. I send messages back to you. So it's goingsolonetwork@gmail.com. So please go ahead and continue sending me all of your emails because I really love to get them. So thank you so much. Let's move on with the show because we got a lot to cover in a very short time. We have a wonderful guest here with us today. We have Forrest Rivers here with us. Welcome.
Hi, welcome. I'm very grateful to be on the show today. Thank you.
It is great having you. We're going to talk about your new book here. It's COVID-19, Humanity's Spiritual Awakening. Let's talk a little bit about that. Why did you decide to write such an important book?
Oh, man. So as we all know, the last year has been one of great suffering for many, many people. And last March, when I, like millions of people, went on lockdown, from the college I teach at, I noticed that the narrative was filled with, understandably, was filled with fear and anxiety. And it had a more kind of negative connotations that we heard in the media. And what I wanted to do was to take note of the suffering, very real suffering that people are going through, but then flip the narrative around and say, hey, despite all of this very intense suffering that people are going through, we can use this suffering for our own awakening. And I wanted to give it a positive spin. I wanted to write a book that would inspire people and that would instill hope, not fear, during a time that has admittedly caused quite a bit of fear and upheaval and chaos and sadness. So I wanted to help inspire people and to shed the light on the positive ways in which we can use this pandemic for our own spiritual and personal growth. And when I started writing the book, a lot of it became, in some sense, my own personal therapy. I wrote the chapters that became this book as the pandemic was unfolding. So I wrote most of this from March. I started in March and finished the book in November, December.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's very important. I mean, there has been a lot of tragedy, that's been surrounded the pandemic. And also, a lot of loss. I mean, a tremendous amount of loss with regards to, families being broken up, but also, our economy and all of that. But what it has done, it has awakened us to the realities of we are so dependent upon certain things in our lives. And then when they're not there, we're so dependent upon the routines that we have, just getting up and going to work, right? Just getting up and doing all the things, having toilet paper. Some of the.
I'm never going to fully understand that one.
but just some of it, we start really. Do we not start really appreciating what we have in our lives? We start understanding the value of others, the value of, even some thought that was mundane, people were saying, oh, please, I want to go to work. I want to get up now and be able to go to work,
Yeah.
get out of my house. But yeah.
This whole period, and I talk about this in the book, COVID-19 and Humanity's Spiritual Awakening. Mm-hmm. I talk a lot about all of those things you just mentioned. This has been a wonderful, important opportunity to reflect on what has meaning in our lives, mm-hmm. what has meaning, what's important in our lives. And we learn that family, we learn that friends, we learn that our relationship with the earth is what matters. And we also figured out that, wow, to be able to fully live our lives and live in this present moment with joy and fulfillment, it also means that we have to come to terms with death, right? It means we have to come to terms with death, and we have to come to terms with suffering as part of the cycle of being, of life. So I think
that's very hard. I mean, I lost my sister during the pandemic,
and terrible.
And it, we don't believe that had to do with the COVID-19, but who knows? You know what I mean? You never know. And so, but it was a time when everything was up in the air, and you're having to deal with certain things, and then, like you normally would celebrate her life or whatever, you couldn't really do any of that. And so it really, the loss was tremendous during that time. So I can imagine people were losing family members, several family members.
So say multiple family members.
Yeah.
People.
The suffering is just tremendous there for the ones that were left behind.
Yeah, and I want to make it clear to the viewers and listeners that far from downplaying the suffering that people have gone through, I talk about the numerous ways that people have tremendously suffered. The people who have lost loved ones, the people who have been sick themselves from the virus, those who have tremendous anxiety, those who didn't get the virus, but with pre-existing conditions, people who have lost jobs during the chaos and the fallout from the lockdowns. But despite all that, the fact that we've gone through this collectively together has made us realize that we're all more interconnected than we think we are. Mm-hmm. And this has also provided an opportunity to work with the suffering. There's a wonderful quote, and I have it in the book too, from one of the most beautiful spiritual teachers. His name is Ram Dass, and he passed away, interestingly enough, 3 months before the pandemic started. And Ram Dass said, suffering is the sandpaper that awakens people. It can be. In the idea,
that is very true.
And I think that if we shift our perspective just a little bit, we may look back at this period 10, 20 years from now and say, wow, that was a really important period for heightening mankind's awareness and consciousness. Maybe we'll see it as one of our light posts on the path to our individual and collective spiritual awakenings.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I feel that a lot of, I'm internet based. I've been internet based for years, long before it was fashionable. Now it's extremely fashionable. Everybody's internet based. All of the radio stations have an internet, outlet. All the TV stations have an internet outlet. But what I found was that it just seemed like we're more in touch with humanity,
Yes.
And what I loved is like when we were watching even the news, and we're seeing people, in their homes broadcasting, and their dog coming through and their kids coming through, and they become real people to us instead of just broadcasters that are on television,
That facade, that illusion of like separateness was broken down. And I think that's such a beautiful point you made. I can't tell you how many Zoom classes I was teaching where I'd be talking to my students and my dog would appear in the background or my cat would walk across the keyboard. And how many times I had to say, can everybody hear me okay? Can everybody hear me? But that all played a role in breaking down our barriers. We all truly, I really don't think this is cliche. We truly have all been in this together. Like I think that's incredibly profound that we've all suffered through this on a collective level. Mm-hmm. I can't think of another period in time, maybe World War II, where the last time we've all collectively had a sacrifice and suffer and transcend. We haven't had a time maybe since World War II where we've been faced with this collective challenge on the level that we have.
Right. And like that period, we became extremely united, yes, in helping each other, trying to get through this, coming up with creative ways, and bless the internet, because that was really our salvation, because people were being able to connect with their families. They were able to teach us how to bake bread. I mean, there were so many different.
I had people who connected on the internet to keep their spiritual communities and sanghas going. I talk about it in the book how the internet played a major role in helping people connect with others who wanted to learn more about gardening or living off the grid. In many ways, despite all of its abuses, and it all has to do with our intent, mm-hmm, the internet ended up being a saving grace for us. And I'm sure there'll be books written on that in the future, the role of the internet in keeping people sort of united and together despite all of the uncertainty.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. And also, let's talk a little bit about, of course, there was the great sadness within the pandemic, but then also the tremendous being creative, right? Reaching towards the depth of yourself and determining, what your joy is and how can you express that and be in touch with that. So let's talk a little bit about, because I think we don't touch on being creative, do we, as much as we should?
No, in this period, I mean, you could argue that creation, the creativity that we all have within us, that is the spark of life. Mm-hmm. That is the spark of life. It's not it's there's an old phrase that says, democracies die when the arts cease to flourish. That is as true as it's ever been before. Creativity is at the spark of humanity. In this period, when we look back on it, and I have a chapter in the book that's literally called The Renaissance of Art, and how this period may actually, when we look back on it, be a period that we look back on that spurred a renaissance in art. I talked when I was writing this book, I talked to writers, musicians, gardeners, painters, and one thing I heard all across the spectrum was, wow, I didn't know that I had this creative spark within me. And this is, suddenly musicians couldn't go perform live. Mm-hmm. We weren't face to face as much. We were spending more time at home than we had ever done before. What wonderful conditions to create and inspire with art. And there is a correlation between periods of extreme hardship, right, and very real suffering, and the explosion of creativity, which winds up uplifting humanity and making us for the better. And I wish I had statistics on this. This is obviously a hard thing to measure, but I'd be willing to bet that we'll see more novels created, more beautiful paintings, inspiring music that comes out of this period. And we'll look back on it and be like, wow, what was that?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that we may be, because of COVID, we may see a renaissance of art on a level we haven't seen maybe since the 1960s and 70s, which was also a major, as we all know, an explosion of that creativity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. The other thing is that, and I know for me, it was, of course, a very sad time because we lost my sister, but then also it allowed me to slow down, right? Because all of us are in this like really fast pace, and it allows us to slow down a little bit. We get ahead of ourselves, I think, too much.
We're never present, right? Yeah. We're never present. This fast-paced society we're in, mm-hmm. we're running from one thing to another, to another, to another. And this has been a very important opportunity to slow down, to be more present. Mm-hmm. And when you're more present, creativity naturally flows because everything becomes your muse or your spark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, for myself, I built a new website called Going Solo Community, which I realized during the time when, because I help a lot of people through divorce recovery and through relationship loss, and they were so alone during that period. And then I thought, well, there has to be a way for us to be able to connect. And so this particular site that I built is huge, and it gives a lot of ways in which to connect, not only through the internet, but then also as we start embracing going out in person and doing activities and whatever. And so it was just formed from that being home and that experience, thinking, what can I do, that I can connect people in a way that will help them in a more positive and unite them in going through some of the feelings that they're going through. And so that's so if anybody out there wants to join, it's called goingsoloCommunity.com. And but it's got education on it and a directory and a lot of really good things. Very helpful. But it allowed me to be able to stop for a minute and really, really get my grounding more and really be grateful for what I do have, because when you lose something, like I lost my sister, when you say to yourself, oh gosh, could I be the next one? Could I, what's going to happen? This kind of thing. And I was also taking care of my father, who's, in his late 80s, in a wheelchair. And so then I was concerned about his health and keeping him safe and all of that. And so you really start looking at life as a whole, right? Yes. You start really stepping out of your box a little bit and looking at everything that you're doing. You kind of get the big picture, don't you?
Well, I think everything you're describing, which was so eloquent, the way you put that, bringing up the personal examples you've had with building the website and dealing with death and dealing with an aging parent. I think all of this is a metaphor for the last year, which is that it's led to more mindfulness. It's made us more present. And when we're more present and we're more mindful, we take a more holistic view, a more larger scope view of life. And we become aware of all those intricacies that normally bypass us, our minds, our busy minds, in our hyper fast-paced society. And there's something very, very valuable that comes out of slowing down and becoming truly present. I mean, look at the impact of that. More people getting out into nature, more people creating, less impact on the environment, people experimenting with different styles of living, people coming to terms with their fear of death, which is not an easy one. It's a heavy, heavy topic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as you know, and you've beautifully pointed out today. These are things that start to happen when you become more present and more alive and more mindful in the moment. Mm-hmm. And if we take anything from this, I hope it's that, because the more mindfully you can live in each moment, the more you live life to the fullest.
Yeah.
And I guess that would be my ultimate message from this book is, let's use this time to cultivate a deeper awareness and appreciation for life and our interconnectedness to the entire whole. And with that, let's live more fully, and let's live with more inspiration and more intent.
Yeah, very good. Very good. We're going to have to take a quick break. And when we come back, let's talk about, now that we're moving through and we're kind of we feel like we're getting ahead of the COVID a little bit now. We've got a little bit more control of it. We're getting our shots. The doors are starting to open up. Things are starting to happen a little bit more. But how can we take this is what I'd like to talk about when we come back. How can we take some of this awakening that we've experienced during some of the darkest times, right? And it's turned us into, moving forward in getting more in touch with ourselves and more in touch with reality, more in touch with our spiritual being. How can we then take that and move forward into a better life, right? Mm-hmm. As we move forward. So when we come right back, we have a wonderful author here with us, Forrest Rivers. He's written this beautiful book, COVID-19, The Humanity Spiritual Awakening. Of course, you guys can get that right on Amazon.com. We're going to share all of his information with you. He's got a wonderful website. It's forrestrivers.com, and that's FORRESTRIVERS.com. He's got a blog there, and also you guys can reach him on Facebook. Just Google his name, Forrest Rivers, and that's plural, Rivers plural, and Forrest with 2 R's. And so, of course, you can go to the book website. It's COVID-19book.info is that the website?
Yeah, and you can also get the book on Amazon.
Yeah, so go to Amazon. So
and Barnes and Noble. They're all over online.
So you know what, ladies and gentlemen, the most important thing you need to remember is go to his website, which is forrestrivers.com, and then also Amazon, and find the book. And that's the best way to do it. So so if you go to his website, it's got all the information there, and you can find it. But connect with him on Facebook and connect with him, through social media, because it's really important that we stay in tune with our wonderful authors here today. So we're going to go on a quick break for us. We'll be right back. Okay, so hang tight. Well, welcome back. You guys are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. This is the goingsolomedia.com is our website. We have a wonderful, book here we're talking about. It's COVID-19, Humanity's Spiritual Awakening. Our wonderful author, Forrest Rivers. It's awesome, really, because we've taken, something that was so tragic, really, in a lot of our lives, very scary. And now we're looking at it from, we've shifted it and we're looking at it from a positive standpoint as what can we learn from that?
Yes.
What can we take with us? It's really created us to be able to get more in touch with ourselves. And so it's it really has changed our lives, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's vitally important that as we get back to normal, whatever that really means, we take care to engage in practices that cultivate all that we've learned and that we carry forth as we go.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that our normal, as we saw it previously, no longer exists, right? And so, I often say that we are not the same person that we were yesterday, nor are we the person that we're going to be tomorrow, right?
No, and absolutely,
life, don't we?
Absolutely, and I think that we have to be very careful that when we go back to normal, we carry everything that we've learned from this past year with us, which means it's going to be very hard because the temptation is going to want to be to go back to this hyper fast-paced lifestyle, me-oriented, more ego consciousness. But if we just take a deep breath and we say, look at the lessons I had in this last year, be a little bit mindful, we could take these lessons and we can evolve ourselves as a species. And I don't mean just physical evolution, I mean spiritual evolution. And I think some practices that we could all cultivate and bring with us as we start transitioning to a new normal are things like meditation practice. That's something that I talk a lot about in the book, is meditation practice. It's been something that's been a very important part of my life. And I've seen it literally transform other people's lives around me as well. And I think if we can all bring something like a meditation practice or something as simple as getting out into nature more, inspiring stories I heard over the last year, more people were getting out in nature than ever before. Yeah. People were locked down in their homes. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go down to the park. Being outside is the only safe place I can be. So I can go outside and I can be with nature. And I think that has the effect of making us more mindful, conscious beings, spending more time with the natural world, cultivating a meditation practice, making sure that we put aside time every week for creative expression, whether that's writing a poem, writing a book, starting a novel, even a short story. It could be painting, it could be gardening, it could be woodworking, whatever that outlet is. As long as, my point being is, there are practices we can do to take the awareness and the lessons that we had over the last year and bring that forth with us as we move forward. And I also think, I hope that one thing we've taken out of this is to look out for those who are most vulnerable in society. Because I think we all found out that it could be us. It may not be us that gets sick or dies today, but it could be us down the road where we will inevitably be in that vulnerable state. You brought up the beautiful example of taking care of your elderly father.
Mm-hmm.
That's one day we're all going to be old, right? One day, but we're all saying, not me. I hope not me.
I keep telling my kids, no, I'm not going to get old. No.
We're going to find the fountain of youth, but no, one day we're all going to get old. You know, one day we may, God forbid, I hope not. I hope to all the viewers and listeners out there, I wish nothing but peace and blessings for your health and your safety and well-being. But things happen. You know, we may have an illness, or we may get hurt or something. My point being, this period has given us insight into what life might be like for those who are more vulnerable or who are suffering.
Right.
And I hope to God that we carry that understanding from this past year with us into this new normal, whatever again that may entail or be. I hope we carry that with us and we look out for each other. Yeah. And I think that when I talk about spiritual awakening, what I mean more than anything is not only the personal empowerment aspect of it, which is a huge part of spiritual awakening, but also a growing awareness of our interconnectedness. And I hope that we carry that with us. And we don't just watch out for me, but we watch out for us.
Yes.
And I don't even mean that in like a political or economic sense or anything. I mean, just very basically caring for your neighbor. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and I hope we carry that with us. I hope that's the number one thing we carry with us moving forward.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Well, I think your book is really going to be great. I think that people can read it now. They appreciate the fact of what we've gone through,
yes,
but also understand where we're moving to. And so, create that spiritual awakening for them and get more in touch with what it is that they want to do in life or how they want to be in life. And I think that helped us.
You have control over your life. You have responsibility over your life. You are empowered. You can do whatever beautiful thing you set out to do. You literally can change the world by simply shifting your perspective. And there are a number of things that we all can do to ensure that we carry the lessons from the last year to benefit not only us, but everybody.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And again, we can find his book right on his website, which is Forrest Rivers. That's ForrestRives.com. He's got a blog on there. Connect with him on Facebook. And then, of course, you can get the book on Amazon.com.
Yeah. And I want to say real quick, if you go to Amazon, you buy the book and you leave me a review, write me an email, forrestrivers4@gmail.com, and give me an address, and I will send you a free copy of my first book, The Hippie Revival and Collected Writings. So just go on Amazon, buy a copy, leave a review, and you can get a free copy of The Hippie Revival. Just forrestrivers4@gmail.com. And or you can reach out to me on Facebook, leave me an address, and I will send you a free copy of that. So
that's terrific. Thank you so much. No, I appreciate that. Well, we are going to have to close the show, but are there any last words you'd like to leave with our audience today?
Yeah, I just want to say this. This has been a difficult year for people, and that I acknowledge, but there is hope. The world is filled with light. And in order to get to that light, you have to work through darkness. And I just want to say, live to inspire and live to instill hope and faith in others. And I'm very grateful to be on this program today. It has been truly a beautiful experience. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Well, I appreciate that. Again, his book is COVID-19, Humanity's Spiritual Awakening. We have wonderful author Forrest Rivers here with us. His first book is the Hippie Revival and Collective Writings. He's going to offer you that for free. All you got to do is just go on Amazon.com, buy the book, leave a review. And let me tell you, these reviews are very important. So leave a review and he'll send you the Hippie Revival. Wow. That's pretty awesome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
We appreciate that. Again, his website is forrestrivers.com. And again, his book goes on Amazon.com. So please take advantage of his offer today. We'd appreciate it. But thank you so much, Forrest. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so much peace to you. Thank you so much.
Same to you. All right. Wow, today went by very, very quickly, didn't it? And what an awesome book. And this book will not only help you to kind of deal with some of the aspects with regards to COVID-19, you know, some of the things you were feeling with as you're moving forward in your life, but also create that spiritual awakening for yourself, you know, as you're learning to be able to move forward in the world as it is today. So I think this is a very powerful book written here by Forrest Rivers. So please go out to Amazon.com, purchase the book, leave a review, and he'll send you his previous book, which is the Hippie Revival and Collective Writings. And again, his website is forrestrivers.com, and connect with him on social media and stuff. That would be kind of cool to do. And I know that he would love it. You guys, the reviews are very, very important on Amazon.com. So I want to be able to share that with you. So if you ever read a book and you enjoy it, or for whatever you dislike it or whatever, I don't really like to give bad reviews, or write something about it. But it's so very vital to the writers today that you do send some sort of review, because we're getting savvy, aren't we? We get on the internet and we check out reviews before we purchase something. So why don't you do that and give a gift to a wonderful writer? And give them a review. Let them know that, hey, I read your book, interesting, bam, that's good enough. But just, you know, if you love it, share that. That's really important. So we want to give back, right? We want to do that. So you guys, we're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. I am Cece Shatz, the Doyenne of relationship building. You want to find out anything about me, just go to goingsolonetwork.com. Everything I do is on there. I hope that you will be inspired as much as we were today. Again, the book is COVID-19, The Humanity's Spiritual Awakening, by our wonderful author here today, Forrest Rivers. So catch you later. I love this show. I hope you guys love it too. Talk to you later. Bye for now.